Imagine your government is planning to bomb you. Not your enemy, not a foreign power. You, American citizens, on American soil. And the plan is already written, signed, and sitting on the desk of some of the most powerful military officials in the world. This isn't fiction. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a document, 46 pages, stamped top secret, proposed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States military in March of 1962. And for decades, almost no one knew it existed. Its name was Operation Northwoods. To understand how something this dark was ever put on paper, you have to go back to the world of early 1962. The Cold War is no longer just political tension. It's a fever, a paranoia woven into daily American life. Children practice hiding under school desks. Families build fallout shelters in their backyards. The Soviet Union has nuclear weapons. And somewhere, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida, a young revolutionary named Fidel Castro has handed the communists a base of operations in the Western Hemisphere. The United States government is terrified. The CIA has already tried, and failed, to remove Castro. The Bay of Pigs invasion in April 1961 is a national embarrassment that still burns. President Kennedy is humiliated. The intelligence community is desperate. And deep within the corridors of the Pentagon, some of the most senior military minds in America begin asking a very dangerous question. What would it take to justify a full military invasion of Cuba? The answer they came up with would shock the conscience of any free nation. General Lyman Lemnitzer, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, oversees the drafting of a proposal so sensitive that it bypasses normal military channels. The plan is simple in its audacity. If America cannot find a legitimate reason to invade Cuba, it will manufacture one. Not a rumor, not propaganda. A real, physical, catastrophic event, staged by Americans, blamed on Cuba, designed to make the American public beg for war. The document lays out these ideas in calm, bureaucratic language, clinical, matter-of-fact, as if the authors are proposing a road construction project, not a campaign of terror against their own people. Shoot down an American military aircraft over Cuba, sink a U.S. Navy ship in Havana Harbor, stage terrorist bombings in Miami, in Washington, D.C., develop a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area, create an international incident by shooting down a civilian aircraft and blaming it on Castro. They even had a plan for a fake space disaster to manufacture the death of astronaut John Glenn and blame it on Cuban interference with the rocket's electronics. These weren't hypothetical musings. They were operational proposals, specific, detailed, costed. One of the most chilling sections deals with a commercial passenger aircraft. The plan calls for a real American airliner to be replaced with a drone, an unmanned duplicate. The real passengers would be secretly transferred to a second aircraft and flown to safety. The drone would then be flown over Cuba and shot down. The passenger list would be real. The names would be real. Grieving families would be real. The outrage would be real. But the attack would be American, designed, executed, and hidden by the United States government. Think about that for a moment. Think about the names on that passenger list. Think about someone waiting at an airport terminal for a loved one who would never come home, and never knowing the truth. The people who wrote these pages thought that was acceptable. They thought it was necessary. They thought the ends justified everything. And the plan kept going. A staged attack on Guantanamo Bay, fake funerals for fake soldiers, mortar attacks timed for maximum media attention. The document is a masterclass in engineering public consent through manufactured horror. It is a blueprint for lying a nation into war. On March 13, 1962, General Lemnitzer presents Operation Northwoods to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. The plan is passed up the chain toward the White House. And then, something unexpected happens. John F. Kennedy says no. Kennedy rejects the plan outright. Within weeks, General Lemnitzer is quietly removed as chairman of the Joint Chiefs and reassigned to a NATO command in Europe. The document is buried, classified, forgotten. The world moves on, never knowing how close it came. But buried is not the same as gone. The document sits in the dark for 35 years. Then, in 1997, a journalist and historian named James Bamford files Freedom of Information Act requests. Boxes of files are opened, and there it is. 46 pages of cold, meticulous planning for mass murder disguised as national security. The story breaks to little fanfare. A brief mention in a book, a scattered article or two, the kind of revelation that should have shaken foundations, but somehow gets lost in the noise of a world that has moved on. The Gulf of Tonkin, the Iraq WMDs, the machinery of manufactured consent didn't stop with Kennedy's refusal. It simply got better at hiding. Here is what Operation Northwoods tells us. Not about Cuba, not about the Cold War, but about power, about what institutions are capable of when they believe the stakes are high enough, about the gap between the image of government projects and the conversations happening behind closed doors. The officials who wrote this plan were not cartoon villains. They were decorated military men, patriots by their own definition, men who believed genuinely that what they were proposing was in the best interest of the United States. That's the part that should keep you up at night. Not the evil of monsters, but the logic of reasonable men. Men pushed to an edge, deciding that American lives were an acceptable price for American power. Kennedy stopped it. One man, in one moment, looked at 46 pages of approved horror and said, "No." That decision, made in a room we will never see, may have saved lives we will never know the names of, and the document was never supposed to see the light of day. But here we are, reading it, talking about it, because some secrets are too important to stay buried. The question Operation Northwoods leaves behind is not whether it was stopped. It was. The question is, what else was written? What else was proposed? What else was signed, classified, and sealed in boxes that no one has opened yet? The Cold War is over. The files are still being released. And some of the most important stories about who we are, as a nation, as a people, are still sitting in the dark, waiting for someone to find them.